To strike raises questions about if and how the U.S. might get involved in this conflict. For more on this, I'm joined now by California Congressman Adam Schiff, who sits on several committees, including the group that oversees the nation's intelligence agencies. Congressman, thanks for being here this afternoon.
You bet, Mara.
Now, Reuters is reporting that the Israeli airstrike took place after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet approved it in a secret meeting Thursday night. Is this the kind of thing that they would have also consulted with the White House about or even informed them about beforehand?
Not necessarily, and the only surprise to me is really that they're confirming it so quickly. It makes a lot of sense for Israel to make sure that sophisticated weaponry does not get transferred to Hezbollah, and this is an opportunity for them to make sure that doesn't happen when the Assad regime is pretty well occupied battling rebel forces, so there's probably not a lot the Assad regime can do. At the same time, Israel doesn't want to provoke Syria into acting or acknowledging it, so I'm a little surprised that they've taken responsibility so quickly, but certainly they have a strong interest in depriving Hezbollah of those kind of weapons that Hezbollah could later use against Israel.
And when it comes to involvement in this conflict with Syria, the president has talked about a red line, a so-called red line. Does the U.S. share Israel's attitude that any mass weapons transfer between Syria and Hezbollah would constitute that red line?
Well, I think the United States certainly has a great concern about that, and probably, although maybe not publicly, is privately applauding what Israel has done. We have a great concern with not only Hezbollah getting these weapons, but this al-Nusra, which is essentially al-Qaeda in Iraq, merged with this organization in Syria. That's of great concern to the United States because, you know, once the Assad regime falls, and ultimately it will fall, there's going to be a fight for who controls Syria in the aftermath, and that fight may go on for years. And right now, one of the more powerful, dangerous players in that is going to be this al-Nusra Front, this al-Qaeda-backed organization. So making sure that group doesn't get a hold of sophisticated weapons it can use to shoot down Israeli airliners or American airliners or use against our troops, that's a very high priority for us.
And what do you think are the most probable options for U.S. involvement if we do, in fact, get engaged in this conflict?
Well, I think probably the two options the administration is looking at most closely are arming the rebels, moving to lethal support for the rebels. Right now we're providing non-lethal and non-lethal military support, so food and humanitarian items, some transport, some intelligence support. But the next step would be lethal support. Another option probably the administration is looking at very seriously is if it can be confirmed that the Assad regime used chemical weapons, and let's say that they used them through aerial assets or missile assets, you could see a cruise missile strike on some of those assets done by, you know, an international coalition. It may be the U.S. has the primary role, but that would be done in concert with our allies.
I want to shift gears for a second and talk about domestic security, specifically as it relates to the Boston bombing investigation. One of Johar Tsarnaev's friends, he's the suspect, of course, in that bombing, one of his friends is now a suspect, and they reportedly got into the U.S. on an expired student visa. Homeland Security officials acknowledge that they failed to share information with airport inspectors that the suspect had been dismissed from school. So does all of this expose some Homeland Security vulnerabilities?
Well, you know, it certainly means I think we have to do a better job in terms of staying after our student visas to make sure that when students drop out of school, they're no longer engaged, they're not meeting the conditions of their visa, that ultimately they're not allowed back in the country or they're sent back home. Those student visas are for a purpose, and that is so that foreign students can study in the United States, and it's valuable, and we benefit from that. But we also would benefit from doing a better job, and not just on the student visas, but overall tracking our visas. We have a lot of people that come to this country on tourist visas and then don't leave. That's been a big problem in terms of illegal immigration. So, you know, part of, I think, what we need to do is improve our system overall, not just vis-a-vis the terrorist threat, but make it a much more efficient immigration system.
All right, Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, sir.
Thank you.
Well,